This is the Jaws Flex Clamp from GoPro. They list it on their website for about $50 US. I bought it here in Kuala Lumpur for 230 ringgit, which is a bit more than that. I'm told that you can get third-party versions of this product, and they're almost as good and a lot cheaper. You know, whether you want to pay the premium prices that GoPro charges to get a premium product, or pay the lower prices to get a knockoff, that's up to you. From what I've seen, the GoPro version is quite a bit better than the knockoffs, but you can check that out for yourself. This is the packaging for the Jaws Flex Clamp. Not a lot going on here. It says that it includes the Jaws Flex Clamp itself and an adjustable neck. So it only comes with two things in the box. And what it's for, I think, is pretty obvious. You mount your GoPro on the end of this flexible neck, and then you can use these spring-loaded clamps to just attach it to anything you like. You know, chair, desk, fence, lamp post, anything you can find that you can grip this to. I've seen it attached to bicycle handlebars and things like that. I don't think you'd want to put this onto a mountain bike, going over big jumps and stuff like that. It's not designed for that. But if you're riding on a smooth city road, I think this grip is strong enough that you could mount this on a bicycle or an e-bike, scooter, anything like that. So it's really meant for any activity where you're not really jumping around hard. Okay, let's open up the box and take a look at it. Pretty simple box, just slides open like that, and there is the Flex Clamp. As I said, you get two items. You get the neck and you get the Jaws clamp itself. One thing to note, and this was a bit of a surprise to me, is that this neck is not the same thing as the gooseneck that GoPro sells. When I bought it, I assumed I would be getting the Jaws and the gooseneck. But the gooseneck is actually about 2 inches longer. This is perhaps 6 inches. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these connecting units. The gooseneck that they sell separately has, I believe, 7 of these units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 more, and it actually is a good 2 inches longer. And that's actually what I wanted. I find this neck to be a bit too short. So it was a bit of an unpleasant surprise to find out that GoPro has 2 versions of this neck. The short one that comes with the Jaws, and then a longer one that they sell separately. So here are the Jaws. Goes without saying, I think, that it's very well made. For $50 it should be, and you can feel it. The spring here is extremely strong. Everything feels very solid. It's lightweight. It's light enough that I couldn't even find a weight for it online anywhere. I think it's basically so light that it doesn't really matter. If you buy this and you carry it around in your hand or in your bag, you won't even notice the weight. So the weight really isn't a factor. A couple of things to note about it that surprised me. I think a lot of them, when they show up, have been in the store for a long time, and the grip is so strong that these rubber pads end up stuck together. So when you first get it out of the box and you try to open it, it will not open, and you think maybe there's a locking mechanism, or it's broken, or there's something wrong with it. But usually what happened is that they're just stuck together because it's been sitting on the shelf for so long, and you really have to give it a good use all your strength to break them apart the first time. The other thing I didn't realize was that these rubber pads actually move around. I thought they would just automatically come together flat, but when you open it up, they actually rotate. So you can set them in advance to grip irregularly shaped surfaces however you want, and then they will come together in flat like that. so they actually move around a little bit. On the website, they say that it accommodates any object from 1/4 inch to 2 inches. And I would take that with a bit of a grain of salt. 1/4 inch, sure, I mean it can grip very small objects, but in order to open it up, you know, to the full 2 inches, takes a lot of strength. I have to use both hands to do it, and I was out walking around the city the other day, and I found, you know, railings and things like that, and I thought, oh, I can attach this to that railing. But in fact, when you try to do it, it won't fit around a lot of handrails and things like that. So I mean, I'm just saying that when you look at this thing, it looks gigantic. You know, you got this huge jaws, and you think you're going to be able to clip it to anything. And yet, when you bring it out into the real world, you find that the objects it can clamp to are probably a bit smaller than you realize, and you'll have a bit more trouble attaching it. I'll show you an example with this desk right here that I'm using. So here's the desk in my guest house, and it's a fairly typical kind of desk. Has what looks to me like a fairly narrow edge here. So when I first got this Jaws clamp, the first thing I did was try to attach it to here. You know, I used one hand, and it was like, I could not get it on there. It's like, wow, that's actually, you know, bigger than I expected. Or the clamp, I'm trying to open it with all my strength with one hand, and I can't do it. I cannot get it open enough to fit over this space. Let's see what it measures as. And it is about 1¼ inches. So even 1¼ inches, I'm having trouble getting it on there. And they say that it's good for up to 2 inches. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. It will fit here, but you have to be a bit deliberate about it. Use 2 hands to open it as far as you can, and then it will attach, and it's very solid. So don't underestimate, you know, the hand strength that it takes to open this thing up and to attach it to different places. One hand, I can't do it with one hand. It takes both hands to open it up, and I honestly can't imagine getting it around anything close to 2 inches. You know, I'd just say 1.5 inches would be a struggle. Even this is a bit of a struggle. So that's something to be aware of. Something else I wasn't fully aware of when I bought this was how to use this strap feature. You can see on the inside there is a rubber strap, and then it goes to the outside, and you can pull this tighter and looser depending on what you need. And I saw some videos about that, but I didn't really understand how it worked or even what it was for. But this is designed to allow you to connect the clamp to very small items, like a very small round pole, and I can demonstrate that with this pen perhaps. So maybe the only thing around you that you can attach your GoPro to is like a very small pole like this, and what you do is put this inside, and then you pull the cord tight, and the cord will ratchet and pull. So I mean, it takes a little bit of adjustment, I think, and some practice to get this right. There you can see how the pen is gripped inside this thick rubber band, and then with the strength of the spring closing it, it grips it quite tightly. So now the jaws are attached even to this pen. So that's a very handy feature as well. So you can attach this to, you know, round items like this that are quite small, and that's more secure than just pinching it over the round thing with the jaws, you know, because that could potentially twist like that and fall off. and you could end up damaging your GoPro. So they thought about that and designed this strap so that the pole goes inside, grips it really tightly with this strap, and then it will not come off. So that's a very handy feature of this device. When you look at all the reviews for these GoPro devices, like this Jaws clamp and the GoPro 3-way and things like that, almost everyone mentions the high price, and people think it's not worth how much you have to pay for these things. But there is a lot of thought that went into this device. One I wanted to mention was that this strap that I've been talking about, instead of it just dangling out the outside and getting in the way, the designers figured out a way to take the excess, so instead of hanging out like that and dangling around and getting in the way, when you're done with it, it tucks away inside this little slot here. So the end tucks into there, and basically it's gone. So it doesn't get in the way anymore. So I really appreciate, design features like that. So someone was thinking and figured out a way to put this strap away neatly and keep it very tidy when you're not using it. And I really like things like that. And that's part of why this device is so expensive. Okay, now let's take a look at the neck. And as I pointed out, this is not the gooseneck that you see on the GoPro website. Even in the listing for the Jaws clamp, they don't refer to it as the gooseneck. This is called just the neck, a flexible neck. And I think that makes a big difference, because when you take out this short neck, it actually isn't quite as bendable and flexible as I expected. I mean, once you start bending it, that's kind of the maximum you're going to get. It's not like you can twist it into an S shape or bend it into knots and things like that. I was expecting quite a bit more flexibility out of this. But if you get the gooseneck, being that much longer, you can actually get more of a twist in it. I don't know why the designers felt that it should be this short, but I assume, they had their reasons. Now, the important thing to note about it is that this neck does not have the usual GoPro thumb screw mount. People not familiar with GoPro may not realize it, but they have two quite different mounting systems. There is the regular mount with the thumb screw that you see here on the bottom of the GoPro cage, these two plastic tabs, and it has a hole in the middle, and then you take a thumb screw, put it through there, and then it screws into a bolt on the other side. And that is the most common GoPro mount. But they also came up with a quick release buckle system, and the neck for this Jaws comes with the buckle mount system, which I think is a very good idea, but it's important to realize that the buckle mount is built into the Jaws itself. You can see it here on the top. It is not detachable or removable. It's in there, and it's a very solid connection point. And the neck has the quick release buckle on the bottom, which attaches to here, and then on the top it also has a buckle mount there. So the way you attach it, the end that has these teeth here, you just slide it in, and then it clicks into place. And it's got a very solid connection. I don't feel, it's brand new, that might make a difference, but I don't feel any play at all, like no motion in any direction. That's a very solid connection. And to remove it, you pinch these two levers or teeth, whatever you want to call them, push forward, takes a bit of practice, and then it comes off again, which I really like. I like quick release systems. I find that the normal GoPro mount with the thumb screws and having to screw it in and then pull it out is very awkward and difficult to work with when you put it into, the other end. It's hard to line up the holes. I find I'm working constantly trying to get the holes to line up, and then I'm putting in the thumb screw and it's not quite lined up, and I got to work it and work it and work it. And then when I do finally get it in, I often have to tighten it down so much that when I want to move it with this thumb screw, it's jammed in place, and it just really hurts my fingers to even move this thing. So it's a very slow and cumbersome sort of mounting system. I'm sure they do it because it's so flexible and you can move the cage around like that. But I always prefer a quick release system, if I can get it. So the ability to just pop that off is very nice. The other advantage to this system is that even though this neck is short, because it has the buckle mount on the top, you can buy one of the goosenecks and attach the gooseneck to here and extend it by 8 inches. So if you need more length, you can just keep adding these goosenecks, adding as many as you want and making it as long as you want or you need. Eventually you'll get to a point where it's so long that it can't support the weight anymore, and it'll be too flexible. But if you put this, for example, on your bicycle's handlebars and it isn't high enough, you can buy a gooseneck and extend it another 8 inches. So it's very flexible having these buckle mounts and the quick release system. Another advantage is that, you can attach your GoPro to the neck and attach it to the jaws, but if you don't want to do that, you can just take one of the GoPro buckle mounts, slide it in there, and then you can attach your GoPro directly to the clamp. So you don't even need to use the neck if you don't want to, and then it's flexible on here. And you can quickly go from one setup to the other just by pulling out that one, clicking this one into place, and then you can put that one at the top. So now your GoPro is on the top, and you can quickly move it from one to the other. And I think that's a very useful system. So there's the whole thing put together: the jaws clamp, the neck, the quick release buckle, and then the GoPro cage attached to that buckle. And this is pretty much all you need. And my idea when I bought this was to be able to use it as a clamp, but I also intended to use it as a regular grip for vlogging. Simply to walk around with your GoPro holding this in your hand as a grip, filming things around you and filming yourself. Works really well for me. Might be because I have longer arms, so even with this short mount, my arm does not appear in the shot. It's essentially the same length as what I was previously using, which is a simple Gorillapod right here. So this is what I've been using so far, and my goal is to replace this with the clamp, or at least be able to use it sometimes. And you can see that it's in fact a little bit longer, this neck arrangement with the clamp, than my Gorillapod. And looking at this Gorillapod, you might be able to figure out one big disadvantage to this clamp system for vlogging, and that is it has no tripod capability. It has the clamp, and that's it. There are no tripod legs, nowhere to attach tripod legs or anything like that. So if you go out vlogging with this, sure, you can clamp it to anything, but if you ever decide you want to put it down on a tripod, you're not going to be able to do so. And this illustrates a problem with the overall GoPro mounting system. For me in particular, because I do such a variety of things, And what I could do is take this with me as my regular vlogging setup, but have this tripod in my bag when I want to use it. And you'd think it might even be a great thing because I can attach this to this and then have an even longer pole, you know, for vlogging. But if you've been paying attention, you'll realize once you take this quick release off, very convenient, I can pop it off. I'm so excited because I'm going to attach it to my Gorillapod, but no, you can't, because this is a tripod mount and there is no way to attach this tripod mount to this neck. So you can't really go quickly from one to the other. And you might think that GoPro would supply a little tripod with a buckle mount, but they don't. I mean, this is their typical GoPro tripod that comes in kits and comes in the three-way grip. So there's a little GoPro tripod, very small, very lightweight, very handy, but you'll notice it's it's not going to attach there too. So the quick release buckle is very handy. The thumb screw is also very handy in its own way, but the two systems have no way to connect with each other, and I don't understand why they don't make it, but GoPro, as far as I can tell, does not have a base, like a buckle base that this can connect to, that has a GoPro mount, thumb screw mount on the other side. So there's no way to make a direct connection between these two. Very strange. However, there is an option to connect it with a regular tripod mount, and that is using one of these, which GoPro makes. This is a tripod to buckle adapter. And GoPro makes these themselves. This is one from GoPro. I've heard that third-party companies make it, but I haven't been able to find any, so I had to buy this from GoPro. And there's a problem with that I'll talk about in a minute. So the way this works is it has a standard 1/4" 20 thread on the bottom, which connects to any standard tripod mount. You know, you can just put it on there, and now you have a quick release buckle system on a Gorillapod that I can attach to here. So now I have a selfie stick that converts to a, you know, that has a tripod base. And as I mentioned, I often run into things that are too wide for this clamp. You know, I can't get this around big hand railings and things like that. So then I can pop it off here with the quick release, pop it onto the Gorillapod, and now I can wrap this around the railing or trees or whatever is too large for the clamp. So once you get one of these adapters, suddenly the whole system becomes a bit more flexible, which I'm pretty happy about. So the only way this works is that I have this GoPro tripod to buckle mount adapter that I had to buy from GoPro. And I was very glad to find that. However, the problem with that is that, as far as I can tell, the only way to get this adapter is to buy it in this kit. I looked everywhere and I don't think it's possible to buy it separately. So to buy this mount, I also have to pay for this mount, which I don't need, and this little tripod, you know, which I just showed you, which I also don't need. So in a way, GoPro is forcing me to buy all these extra products when I don't really want to. And in fact, in order to use this system that I'm designing, I need one more of these adapters. So in fact, I had to buy 2 of these kits, quite expensive as you can see, in order just to get 2 of these items. And I saw someone online talking about how they bought these adapters for like $1 each from a third-party company. But again, I searched all over Kuala Lumpur, high and low, and I could not find individual adapters like this for sale, whether from GoPro or from any other company. So I just ended up buying 2 of these kits when really all I wanted were these adapters. So here's the whole setup with the Jaws clamp, the neck, and the regular GoPro cage on the top. It's pretty small, as I said, very lightweight, and if you use it as a vlogging selfie stick, this is kind of what it looks like. Just holding it right there, and that's about the regular height that I would hold the camera as I'm walking around the streets and just talking to myself and talking to the camera. It works well for me. You know, my arm, I guess, is long enough that I get a nice wide field of view, and my arm doesn't end up in the shot even using this short stick. If you have shorter arms, it might be a different case. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I haven't had this very long, but I've taken it out a few times just to do some testing, and I found it was pretty much the same as using my Gorillapod. If you're holding it up at this height for a long time, your arm does get a little bit tired, but I find I don't really notice it that much. So if I'm walking along and I'm chatting into the camera with this and I want to put this somewhere, you know, I can just open up the Jaws, clamp it to something, and then walk away from it, have my hands free, you know, clamp it to anything around me. That's very handy. The disadvantage, of course, is there's no tripod base. So my current plan is simply to pop it off with the quick release down here at the bottom. So the neck comes off the Jaws, and then I can clamp it to my Gorillapod, and then I've got my legs, and I can use it as a tripod. So I could use this as my regular vlogging rig. As you can see, it's quite a bit higher because I have the Gorillapod attached to the neck, and my arm can go down at a more comfortable level, and that's pretty handy. It looks a bit weird, I have to say, to have these 2 things, you know, connected together. It's a bit of a big looking setup for such a tiny camera, but that doesn't bother me that much. So I could use this, and then when I need the clamp, then I can switch over to the clamp. So basically with the quick release buckles, I can flip back and forth between the Gorillapod and the clamp, you know, whenever I feel like it. And in terms of using the Gorillapod as a tripod, you don't have to use the entire neck. You could, if you wanted to, simply disconnect the GoPro cage itself, because it also has a quick release, and attach it directly to the buckle on the Gorillapod. And now I'm back to my regular vlogging setup that I've been using so far in the past, and I have the you know, the handy tripod. So I'm pretty happy that I bought this Jaws clamp with the neck. I do wish, as I said, that the neck was a little bit longer than the one that came in the box, and as much as I hate to do it, I will probably end up buying the actual gooseneck, which might end up being quite helpful because I can combine it with this and have an even longer neck on it to attach to, you know, bicycle handlebars and things like that. But overall, I'm very happy with this. You know, I'm glad that I bought it, and I can see using it in dozens of different ways as I go around cities and I want to clamp it to things. You know, maybe even inside restaurants, you sit at a table, you just clamp it on the chair, you know, across from you, and then have the GoPro aiming at you. And that might even be better than using a tripod, because my few brief attempts at trying to vlog while I'm eating something, it's really tricky because these tables you're sitting at in markets are really quite rickety, and they're often on an angle, and no matter how carefully you set up your tripod, even this Gorillapod tripod, it always seems like it's going to get knocked over. and there's so much activity with other customers and waiters running around with arms out and bags, you know, someone's going to hit your camera and knock it flying off the table, something like that. So using something like this and just clipping it to the chair across from you or to the table itself, something like that makes a much more solid connection between, you know, the base and your camera. And I think your camera will be a lot safer if you do that. So again, I'm just speculating because I haven't used it in any of those situations yet, but I'm just thinking ahead to how I might use this and the advantages it might have over a Gorillapod or any other tripod system or selfie stick for that matter. Not to get overly complicated, I hope, but everything I've said so far about this Jaws flex clamp is in relation to using the original GoPro cage that comes with your GoPro, and it has the GoPro mount on the bottom, and to attach it to this you have to have one of these quick release buckles and attach it to the GoPro mount on the cage. However, if you are vlogging regularly, you probably bought the GoPro mic adapter, and if you did that, you probably bought something like this, which is the Ulanzi V2 Pro cage, which gives you this very convenient slot where you can store the mic adapter, and it gives you a cold shoe mount on the top where you can attach a microphone. For reasons I will never understand, you know, the GoPro itself does not have a cold shoe on the top, so you can't attach anything, and of course it famously has no microphone input, which is why you need to buy the adapter. Rumors are that the GoPro Hero 8 coming out this year, maybe in October, will come with a totally new design similar to this Ulanzi, where it will have a cage around the outside and you can attach all kinds of accessories to the cage. But we don't know officially whether that's true or not. For now, I have the Ulanzi V2 Pro, and it came with a tripod mount here in the bottom. That's how it ships. In fact, that's why I bought it, because I normally use tripods. I don't use GoPro mounts. But now that I have a GoPro mount, I had to buy a tripod to GoPro adapter and then attach that adapter to the buckle mount here. So you start ending up with quite a complicated rig. And that's what it looks like when it's attached. So I have the GoPro buckle, quick release buckle, and then I have an adapter. Then the adapter plugs into this large compartment with the mic adapter, and finally you get to the GoPro. So in fact, this is what I'm using, not what I was demonstrating earlier. So it in fact sits even a little bit higher because I have an extension here on the quick release buckle, and then with this compartment at the bottom it raises the GoPro even higher. And that's a good thing because I want it to be higher. It's easier to hold it up higher when it's a bit longer like this. But at the same time, as soon as you add all of this extra weight and all of the angles that this gives you, suddenly it puts a lot more stress on things and they start bending more easily, because everything is designed for this lightweight, very small, you know, GoPro cage. Once you add all of these adapters and a specialty cage and a microphone, this starts getting heavier and heavier, and then I find that you do get more, you know, if it bounces, you know, it will now bend when perhaps it may not have bent with this lightweight cage. So that's something else to think about as well, you know, how you're going to use this and whether it will be useful for you. And as time goes by, this attachment system might get more loose. It's brand new, so it's kind of stiff right now, and maybe in the future I'll find that it, you know, bends too easily as it bounces around, you know, like that. So for me, that's not a big problem because I tend to just be walking around and holding it very gently. But if you mount this on your bicycle or something with all of this attached, it might become an issue, especially if you add one more gooseneck. Then almost certainly it will be too flexible, and you'll probably have to keep it quite straight in order to keep it all working properly. Just to give you a few examples of how this Jaws flex clamp works in the real world, I'm going to show you a few ways that I can attach this here in this small hotel room. It's a fairly typical hotel room, and if all you had was a tripod or a Gorillapod, you might have a hard time mounting your GoPro in here for vlogging. But with this, there's all kinds of opportunities. Here's the most obvious one. Has a little bit of a cupboard up here on the top, and your clamp can go around that bottom edge there for a very firm grip, and then you can move the neck to any angle that you want, up or down. Note that if you're recording while you're adjusting it, you're going to be recording all of that creaking sound, and there's really no way around that. So you basically have to be recording, adjust the neck, then start recording again. You know, all the parts where you're moving the neck, you would have to edit that out of the video because of all the noise that would make. And if all you have is a vertical piece of material like this, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. You can just clamp your Jaws flex clamp there and then twist the neck, you know, to the angle that you want. You'll notice that the short neck causes some problems here. I can't quite get it around to where I want it to go. But one thing I didn't mention in the previous part of the video is at the top, you can actually twist it. So you could grab the whole thing and rotate the whole GoPro on top of this and get it so that it's nice and flat and level like that. Some other more imaginative places, if there's nothing else available, there's a TV mounted on the wall here. So you could take your flex clamp and just mount it there on the TV screen. Again, you'd have a bit of a hard time getting it all the way up and level because this neck won't extend that far. And because this is on an angle, you can't get your GoPro level. So you'll have to work with that or buy an extension so that you can actually get it longer and then twist it into a, you know, a flat orientation. But yeah, something like that will work. You can even use it on your laptop if nothing else is available as a stand. You can just clip it onto the screen of your laptop and mount your GoPro there. Door handles are another possibility. Got a flat, odd-shaped door handle there, but the clamp, you can just clamp over that nicely. So this isn't the tightest grip. There's a lot of motion there, but as long as you're not moving the door or doing anything, you know, once you get it set up like that and don't touch it, it should stay nice and stable. So it can clip onto door handles that way. The other door in this room is a regular round doorknob, and this is a good example of something that you think you might be able to put the clamp on, but when you get to try it, you'll see that it can't fit over that. It's simply too large, and the doorknob is too large for these for the Jaws. There's two more interesting examples in this room. I'll call it three, actually. Up here above the door, there is a door jamb. And if we go up here to take a closer look at it, we'll see, first of all, that it's really dirty up here, but it has a flat surface on top, but then a rounded surface underneath. And that's where these rotating pads come into play, because as you grip it here, the top one goes flat, and then you'll notice the bottom one adjusts to go on an angle. So even though this is an irregular surface, flat on top, curved on the bottom, the way these pads are designed, they still shift position to be able to grip quite solidly on a curved surface like that. So I think that's really cool. And up here, there's a air conditioner on the wall. If you have no other place to put it, you can even clamp it to the little door here. And there, you have a nice spot for your GoPro with a nice aerial view of the room if you wanted to do a demonstration of packing or vlogging, you know, whatever you're doing. You can even use your air conditioner as a mounting spot. Ooh. One more demonstration for this room. You've got a rod here for clothes hangers, very small and very round, and normally, of course, a clamp is not going to work very well. I mean, you could hang it there, and then once it stops rocking, you know, you angle your GoPro properly, and you know, that would be good enough. But if you wanted a firmer attachment point, that's where this strap on the inside comes into play. And as I said, it's a little bit fidgety to work with. You know, you got to kind of figure this out. I think what you do is you judge how large this bar is in advance and kind of pull the strap into place to where you think it might want to go. And then you put the strap into the jaws, pull it a little bit tight, and then wiggle it a little bit until everything kind of snaps into place. And now we've got a nice firm grip on that pole. It still rotates, of course, because it's round, but yeah, you've got a nice grip there going. That's all the possibilities in this room. Got a little bit of an attached bathroom here, and here's a bathroom shelf. You know, can click on there, no problem. Even onto a faucet if you absolutely needed to. Clip it onto a faucet, clip it onto your shower head. One of these windows here, you could clip it. Open one of these up a little bit. There you go. So now I have it clipped onto this window over here. There's a bar here in the corner. And again, the whole thing can clip onto that bar. No trouble at all. And the door of the bathroom, got to widen it a little bit. That might be just about the maximum width that you can get it to. And there it is hooked on there. And so there you have it, all the different ways that you can use the Jaws flex clamp. As you can see, it's pretty adaptable. You can think of ways to attach it to almost anything inside a room like this. So there you have it, the GoPro Jaws flex clamp. I like it a lot. I haven't had a chance to use it a great deal out in the real world yet, but my first impressions are pretty positive when it comes to the build quality and the overall design. Unfortunately, of course, I had to add in a lot of adapters into the mix in order to work with my system in general, and the lack of a tripod mount of any kind of reduces its usability for me. So I end up having to bring this plus some kind of a tripod with me at all times. It'd be pretty handy, you know, if it had a tiny little screw at the bottom where you could, you know, put in a little tiny little tripod mount, just a little one. You know, that would make it a lot better, but it doesn't have that capability. And I understand why most people won't be trying to use it in all the ways that I'll be using it. So some things just to remember before you buy this. I mean, it is expensive. Is it worth it to you to pay that much money? Only you know. Well, that is it for now, and I will see you in the next video. Testing the microphone. Testing.